You guys, it has been a while since I have felt like a single product or a single formula deserved an entire review video. These are the exception, okay? These are the brand new Patrick Ta Major Dimension Eye Illusion eyeshadow duos. We need to talk about these. There has been so much rhetoric online about this product. These Major Dimension eyeshadow duos are Patrick Ta's holiday launch for 2024. We've all seen his previous gorgeous holiday palette launches, especially last year's, which got a lot of buzz, specifically that quad of shimmers. So this year, Patrick Ta released a gorgeous duo of shimmers, 5 different shades, and the reason that people are particularly freaking out about them is the price tag. Each of these duos retails for $42. In today's video, I'm gonna break it down for you guys. I'm going to answer the question on whether or not these duos are worth the $42 price tag. Obviously, keep in mind that if $42 is just an outlandish price for eyeshadow for you, then they're not worth it. I can go ahead and answer that question right at the top of the video. If you would never think of paying more than $10, $20, $30 for eyeshadow in general, then of course, this isn't gonna be your product. But for those of you guys who are wondering, does the quality justify the price? Does the product justify the price? Is this actually a unique formula like it should be for that type of price tag? We're gonna answer all those questions in today's video. I'm also gonna go through and do live swatches of all 5 of the duos Patrick released. And I'm also gonna do a few formula comparisons for you guys to formulas that in my head I thought might be similar to this type of product. So let's go through it, you guys. I'm gonna try not to keep you guys here for too long. I wanna just answer all of the burning questions that I'm sure you guys have, but let's go ahead and start off with the packaging. Yes, it holds fingerprints. Yes, it's gonna look like a hot mess as you use it, but it is your classic Patrick Ta packaging. You've got your name and sticker on the back, and then when you open it up, you do have a mirror up here, and then you've got your 2 shades. Standard, simple. One thing I will say, since I have multiple of these, is I would have loved for there to be a color representation on the packaging somewhere. I would have loved for maybe the sticker to be color coordinated or something like that, because to be honest, remembering the names of these duos is going to be a trick. The names of these duos are, they were a choice and they're not gonna be easy to remember. You do get 4 grams of product in each of these duos, which breaks down to 2 grams per shade, which if we're talking about a standard, let's say MAC eyeshadow single, those have typically 1.5 grams. So each of these is bigger than a standard single eyeshadow. This formula is made in Italy, which is one of the premier places to get makeup formulated. Italy is top tier in terms of price, in terms of labor cost, in terms of raw material cost. So just keep that in mind. The reason I do want to address all of that is because all of that goes into the final pricing of a product. Before I talk about the actual formula, I want to go ahead and show you guys live swatches, just because I want to talk through the way these go on as you guys are seeing them visually. The first duo I swatched is called We Need Better Lighting. The top shade is this really pretty, very, very sparkly, almost disco ball silver shade. And the bottom shade in this duo is this really, really reflective champagne gold shade. But again, the reflect is so bright and prominent. I'll just let you guys know that this duo out of all 5 is the most eye-catching. It is the most reflective and the most wet looking duo out of all 5. The next duo we have is called Talk to My Team, and this one starts off with a kind of semi-translucent based peachy pink, and I will say the reflex in this particular shade aren't, again, as wet or bright or pronounced as the previous duo. And then the bottom shade in this duo is a slightly darker, more warm toned peachy golden shade, also with a pretty translucent base. The next duo we have is called Do You Know Who I Am? And this is your traditional gorgeous medium golden duo. We start off with a sheer base with an intense reflective medium gold. It's that perfect like old gold shade. And then the second shade in this duo is the slightly deeper, more coppery, more warm toned golden bronze. The fourth duo we have, which maybe is my favorite in tone, this one is called Still at the Club, and this is a medium dark kind of taupey cool tone duo. We start off with a taupe base with a gorgeous silvery reflect shot through it. This is definitely the more wet formula of the two. The bottom shade in the duo is a darker kind of rich bronzy taupe with shimmer that isn't quite as reflective or quite as wet looking. It is still a shimmery metallic, but again, it doesn't have that like extra dimension sparkle like the top shade in this duo has. And then the final duo we have in the lineup is called I'm With Her, and the top shade in this duo is a gorgeous medium coppery rose gold shade with some definite pink sparkle in it. And then the bottom shade is your classic Patrick Ta hot pink, again the lesser shimmery of the two in this duo, but it is a hot pink base with silvery pinky sparkle shot through it. You can see the full lineup here. I want to show you guys what it looks like with the flash on, because I will say the way these pigments reflect and the way this formula is created, it really sparkles in that like incandescent light, in that special like elevator lighting, in the flash photography, in that direct sunlight. That's when you really get the true impact of these shades. I want to go ahead and just talk through this formula with you guys a little bit, because I think that is where people are getting the biggest misconceptions in terms of, are these duos worth the price? Is $42 a lot for two eyeshadows? Objectively, yes it is. However, as we go through some comparisons and as we talk later in this video, you guys might see that that is kind of standard market price nowadays. Makeup just isn't what it was 10, 15, even 5 years ago. The price of everything has gone up quite a bit, and to get a genuinely special formula, it costs money. It's kind of unfortunate because there are a lot of really decent alternatives at the drugstore or even at lower high-end prices, but clearly Patrick Ta is priced at a more luxury price point. This is standard market pricing for a brand like Charlotte Tilbury, for a brand like Bobbi Brown. I would put Patrick Ta in line with some of those brands. They're luxury brands, they're not quite designer brands, but they're definitely high-end. This is one of those special formulas. It is a special formula. It is something that is not found in most makeup brands. The reason most makeup brands don't create a formula like this is because it is extraordinarily expensive to produce. In case you guys didn't know, I have my own makeup brand. I have worked with labs to create different formulas. I know the pricing of different micas and pigments and how expensive something like this is to produce. This shit's expensive, you guys. The pearls that are in here are not cheap. For these being made in Italy, it is not cheap. For the actual micas that have gone in this to create that genuine diamond-like, extremely disco ball-y, very like the wet shine, the scattered shine, it's not a cheap formula to produce. I understand that $42 is pricey, but unfortunately, this is pricey. I also think this is one of those products that you don't need all 5 of them. You don't even need 2 or 3 of them. I would say if you are interested in this duo, save up for it. Save up for the one that you want. If you forego getting a Starbucks latte once or twice a week, within a month, you'll be able to buy one of these. You know, it's just not, it's not the pushback I necessarily expected for this product. So I guess I was surprised by the online rhetoric personally. If you are an absolute makeup lover and those gem pieces, that one nice luxury piece of makeup makes you happy, in my opinion, this is something that you save up for the one duo and make it become that one special luxury eyeshadow duo in your collection. You can pull it out during every special occasion. You can wear it to holiday events coming up. You can also use it just as your daily go-to eyeshadow. If you love something sparkly and shimmery, these are gorgeous. This is one of those formulas that's a slightly thinner formula. It's a drier, sparkly formula. It's not one of those creamy, intense metallics, which I'll be honest, as I'm getting older and as my eyelids are getting, you know, a little bit more, I don't want to say saggy, but there's definitely more loose skin on my eyelids than there was 10 years ago. This type of drier shimmer formula has become invaluable in my collection. The ability to just stick my finger in these, rub it around just a little bit, and tap on a shimmer to get that full shimmery diamondy effect without having to apply a thick layer of product. Something that's not overly creamy or emollient that ends up creping up, that ends up looking thick on my eyelids. That is a formula I'm looking for. I'm looking for something thinner. I'm looking for something that has the impact in a smaller quantity of product. I want the shimmer impact, but I don't want to have to apply a thick, creamy, chunky layer because it just doesn't look good anymore. It doesn't look good, especially on aging eyelids. To me, this is a beautiful formula, especially for people that are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and up. Some of the shades have more of a base pigment than others, but I will say overall, all of these are gorgeous. Yesterday, I used this Still at the Club duo, and I started with the darker shade, tapped that all over my lid, and then topped it with the lighter, more sparkly shade. And when I say the impact of this eye look was absolutely stunning. I mean, it was just gorgeous. Today I'm wearing the I'm With Her duo. I did a very similar thing. I started with the hot pink, put that on my eyelids as a base, and then topped it with this lighter shade. Stunning. I mean, the look is gorgeous. Again, the shimmers and the mica really pop when you're in that special lighting. And I will say, it's a special product. It just is. I want to go ahead and do some formula comparisons with you guys. I live swatched some other comparable formulas that I had in my collection. Full disclosure, after doing the swatches, none of them are actually comparable, but I want to show that to you guys. I want to live swatch it with you guys. So I started off with the Urban Decay Moon Dust single eyeshadows. Each of these Moon Dust singles retail for $24 a piece. So keep in mind, if you were to buy two, that is now $48. So more than these duos. I went ahead and swatched the shade Space Cowboy because I know that's one of the most popular Urban Decay Moon Dust shades, and you can see when this one goes on, it is more scattered. It is more sheer of a color. The base isn't quite as strong, and also the density of the sparkle just is not there. The reflectiveness is nothing compared to the We Need Better Lighting duo. That's the duo that I have on the left side of my arm here, and I'm gonna do all the comparable swatches to the right. So the Space Cowboy shade, again, even with it being the most popular Urban Decay Moon Dust shade, even with it being that cult classic shade, it gives a very different effect. It's not as sparkly, it's not as dense, it's not as reflective as the Patrick Ta. I wanted to go ahead and also compare the Fenty Beauty Diamond Bomb highlighter to this formula. The reason I did this comparison, even though the Fenty Beauty is technically marketed as a face highlighter, this is a very popular product that people use as eyeshadow toppers to add that extra dimensional shimmer. So this one is in the classic shade How Many Carats, and again, you can see this formula is more similar to the Urban Decay Moon Dust and less similar to the Patrick Ta. It does have even less dense particles than the Urban Decay Moon Dust. So I would say between the three, the Patrick Ta is definitely the most densely shimmery, the Urban Decay is smack dab in the middle, and the Fenty Beauty highlighter is the least sparkly, the least shimmery, and the particles of sparkle are smaller on this, which of course makes sense because again, it is more meant to be a face highlighter, but because I use it as a shimmery eyeshadow topper, I figured I'd just do a swatch comparison. I wanted to also pull some shades from some really popular eyeshadow palettes because again, I thought in my head, maybe the shimmer could be comparable. So I pulled out the Makeup by Mario Etherealized Moonlight palette. This is the palette he released for holiday of 2024. And I went ahead and swatched this shade right here in the middle, this goldy shade. Now you can see that the base pigment in this one is similarly strong to the Patrick Ta. It definitely has more base pigment than the Urban Decay and the Fenty, but I will say the sparkle, it is unmatched. The Patrick Ta sparkle does not compare to the Makeup by Mario Ethereal Eyes. While I do think some of these sparkly shades in the Ethereal Eyes palette are really, really stunning, it still doesn't top the Patrick Ta. Again, you can see that visually, they are different. I also wanted to compare a Natasha Denona shimmer because I know she has a few different formulas of shimmers in her palettes. So I pulled out my I Need a Warm palette. Now this palette does retail for $69. Again, it's an eyeshadow palette, 15 shades, but I went ahead and took this shade, which I thought could give a similar effect. And when you swatch it, you can see the effect is totally different. This one is more of a creamy metallic base. It's not that super dry, almost in a way flaky shimmer like the Patrick Ta is. This one just goes on thicker. It's more emollient. It does have a beautiful sparkle, but again, it's not that almost three-dimensional scattered shimmer like the Patrick Ta. Base pigment wise though, it is kind of comparable. Like it does have a decent amount of base pigment to it, but again, the sparkle in the Patrick Ta still doesn't compare to the Natasha Denona. I also wanted to show you guys the special formula of the Pat McGrath baked eyeshadows that she has in her bigger palettes. I will say Pat McGrath seems to be phasing out this formula. Unfortunately, to me, it was the most special Pat McGrath formula because I know texturally when you put your finger in it, it is the most reminiscent of the Patrick Ta. So I went into this kind of bronzy copper shade in the Pat McGrath palette, and you can see again, this one I will say is the most similar to the Patrick Ta duos. I still wouldn't say it is quite as impactful or quite as sparkly, but in my opinion, it is the closest formula that I have found in my current collection. It does have that similar dry, thin consistency with that intense, sparkly finish, which again is what I'm looking for when I'm looking for a similar formula to the Patrick Ta. And of course, these Pat McGrath palettes, again, you're getting a full palette, but these entire palettes are $128. And if we're being honest, there are usually only 2, maybe 3 of these special shimmers in these palettes. And again, knowing the back end of makeup and how much raw materials cost, these micas, the special shimmer formula is what is the bulk of the cost in these Pat McGrath palettes. The matte shadows or the regular metallic shimmer shadows, that is not what costs money. It is these special micas. These are expensive to formulate. So even in the Pat McGrath palettes, you're paying $128, but the bulk of the cost you are paying for is those 2 to 3 special shimmers. That is what you are paying for in those palettes. So just putting that into perspective, again, for me, I do think just getting the 2 special shades, the only 2 shadows that are really that special, they are really that amazing, and just getting it in a smaller compact, to me, is more worth it. I don't want to have to buy a whole palette of 10 to 12 to 15 shades just to like 2 of them. Another critique of these that I have heard online, which I do understand to some respect, is if he could have just made these singles instead of making you pay for 2 in the duo, especially if you only love one shade, but you don't want or love the other shade. I understand that criticism. Honestly, even when I saw some of the duos and I fell in love with one shade, but not so much the other, my heart wished I could just buy that one shade individually. But again, knowing the back end of the industry, and even if you're familiar with the price tags of these special single shadows on the market currently, there is no way that he would have been able to sell a single of this eyeshadow for anything less than $35. Likely it would have been in the $32 to $35 price tag. And again, for one eyeshadow, that would have been a big complaint for people too. So that's just something else to keep in mind. Just to show you guys proof of that, other singles that have a somewhat similar shimmer-esque formula on the market, again, these are not exact dupes. I don't think any of these formulas are maybe quite as sparkly as the Patrick Ta, but Too Faced has an eyeshadow single that they call their Disco Crush Glitter Eyeshadow. These retail for $30 a pop. And this is from Too Faced, you guys. This is from Too Faced with this plastic packaging. This is a $30 eyeshadow single. Another brand that released holiday eyeshadow singles that, again, are priced high is Charlotte Tilbury. She has her Hypnotizing Pop Shot eyeshadow singles. These retail for $34 a pop. In my opinion, I feel like Patrick Ta and Charlotte Tilbury seem to be similar in terms of branding and overall pricing. So again, in my opinion, if Patrick Ta had released these as singles, they probably would have retailed for around $34, which is exactly what Charlotte Tilbury is pricing her singles at. There are also some other brands pricing their singles even higher. These Bobbi Brown Luxe eyeshadow singles, I completely forgot that I owned this. I purchased this many years ago. Bobbi Brown still sells this formula, but this is a somewhat comparable formula in terms of the texture, not in terms of the effect. You don't get the same sparkle, the same mica, the same like glittery, shimmery effect as the Patrick Ta, but it's still that kind of drier, more baked formula. And each of these singles from Bobbi Brown retails for $43 a pop. And then even going a step higher, Chantecaille. I know that is definitely more of a luxe bougie brand, but Chantecaille has their shadows. These are the luminescent eyeshadows that retail for $58 a pop. The reason I wanted to talk through those other somewhat comparable eyeshadow single formulas is more so because I want to make you guys aware of standard market pricing nowadays. Even I was taken off guard. Even I was shocked by the price of some of these singles. I did not think Too Faced was selling single eyeshadows for $30. I did not expect that. So seeing those other formulas and then also seeing that they are not this same formula, there is something extra special about some of these duos. But overall, because I know the price tag has been the biggest critique with these, it's been the biggest roadblock, to me, I just wasn't really shocked by the price tag. I wasn't. Knowing what I know and seeing what other products are available on the market, to me, it seemed to line up. Let me go ahead and rank these for you guys because I'm telling you right now, you definitely don't need all 5. I'm also telling you right now, you probably don't need more than 1. I would say get the one special one, the one that calls out to you. Everybody has a different preference in terms of the shades they like to wear, but having swatched all of them, owning all of them, I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you guys the ones that I personally recommend over others. In terms of impact, in terms of actual mica impact, to me, this one is number 5. It's the bottom of the barrel, in my opinion, and that is Talk to My Team. This is that kind of lighter, peachy, kind of warm, peachy, golden shade. The reason this one is number 5 is simply because of the impact. I would say the micas in here aren't as special as the ones that are in the other duos. This one is the least impactful on the eyes, in my opinion. However, I could see how this would be valuable for people who want something that's more wearable in a way. It's a wearable color palette. It is really beautiful still, but it doesn't have that extra dimension, that extra just X factor that some of these other have. So that's why, again, if you're asking me which ones are worth the $42, this one I would say might not be worth it. Number 4 in my ranking, and the only other one that I'm thinking may not be worth it, depending on who you are, this is the duo in I'm With Her. For me, this one is the one I'm probably gonna get the least use out of. This is the hot pink one. It is what I'm wearing on my eyes right now. It looks really pretty. However, I just don't wear hot pink eyeshadow that often. It's not a color that I tend to reach for. If Patrick Ta was gonna do a color duo, I would have personally preferred a blue, a green, a purple. Hot pink just isn't my preferred color on my eyes. This might make a really pretty blush though, or even a blush topper. I could see that being really pretty, but this is also one of the lesser sparkly duos. I will say neither of these shades, again, have that extra sparkle that the other 3 have. This might be another one you could skip, especially if you're asking, is it worth $42? This one I would say, in my opinion, probably not. These next 3, I'll be honest, are kind of difficult for me to rank because I think all 3 of these next ones are worth the $42 if this is something that you want to purchase. Number 3, I'm gonna put Still at the Club. This one might be the one that I get the most use out of, but if we're talking ranking in terms of is it worth the price? This one to me is number 3. The reason I say that is because this lighter shade is stunning. It has that X factor. It has that super sparkly, wet looking shimmer, but this top one doesn't have that. It is still a gorgeous, gorgeous duo, and the layering of the two, it looks insane. It looks insane on the eyes. This is a really pretty one and done, kind of somewhat smoky eye on me as well. But again, this shade doesn't have the X factor. This one does, which is why it's ranked number 3 for me. Number 2 in the ranking, I have to give to Do You Know Who I Am? I told you these names are a choice. But anyways, this is your medium golden duo. The reason I think this one is worth the price is because both of these shades have the X factor. You can use one or the other. You will get just as much impact, just as much sparkle, just as much of that wet looking shine, no matter which shade you use. You can obviously layer them, but you don't have to. They are both gorgeous individually. I love this duo. And then number 1, which comes to nobody's surprise because I've hyped up this duo this entire video, that is We Need Better Lighting. This duo is stunning. This is gonna be my go-to holiday duo. It's gonna be my go-to party duo, my go-to wedding event duo. I mean, any special event, if you want your eyes to be the focal point of your look, this is the duo that I would highly recommend. I love that you're getting that classic kind of silvery iridescent champagne-y color, and then you're also getting the more golden version. These will make gorgeous eyeshadow toppers. You can use them by themselves too if you like that kind of sheer, more translucent base and you just want the sparkle to pop. This to me is worth it. I think this one for me is worth it because it is special. Both of these shades are special. They have the X factor. I could see this working in with every other eyeshadow palette I have in my collection. It's perfect to take traveling. Again, if you travel for holiday events and you want something smaller, more compact, that's gonna give you the effect. In my opinion, that's what this duo does. So rounding out this video, what do I think of these duos? Overall, I think they were a nice launch from Patrick Ta. I like the formula. I like the way they go on. I love the impact that they give. Are all of these duos perfect and are all of them worth the money? No, but I will say my top 3 in that ranking, maybe. So those are all of my thoughts on the new Patrick Ta Eye Illusion eyeshadow duos. I would love to know in the comments down below, what do you think of these? Are you guys gonna pick any up? Have you already picked any up? Are you gonna skip this release? Let me know what you think in the comments. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you guys enjoyed it, if you guys enjoyed the comparisons and my thoughts. It would really mean a lot to me if you thumbs up this video and subscribe to my channel. I have my Sephora holiday savings event sale haul coming up for you guys in my next video. Stay tuned for that because I went a little crazier this year than I thought I was supposed to, but we'll talk about all of that in my next video. Thank you guys so much for being here with me today, and I will talk to you guys very soon. I'll see you then. Bye.